being called indigenous creatures layered on top of a society and issues that aren't ours.
Yeah.
It's one of those real fucked up things because
that offended me.
That's why it's offensive, because our issues, suicide rates, drug problems, these things aren't, we know why we have them. You're why we have them.
Yeah, that's so real.
That's like, this is when we have a tribe relocated and they're not in their normal habitat. This is why we have an issue. And for myself, I can't. I used to go to Turtle Lodge. Keith Turner was my elder. He helped me get clean. And this is that. Like before I started sweat painting, I had to go outside. I was so weird from drugs because at that time it was almost like it's poison. There's no way to glorify drugs for some reason. My
mom dealt with all that.
Yeah, but I would go outside and I would exercise up and down the curb. I mean, I was skinny, I was disgusting, and so using my body and honoring it was how I had to start. And then that understood the sweat. That brought me back to being who I was, the earth. I mean, the creator. So this being native starts to become this unique healing process that I had.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy, Jose Cruz. Yes, your favorite Native American. And here we are, man. Season 3, episode 1. We are back at it. And, man, we are in the holidays. Man, Merry Christmas to you. Man, leave it to me to start a podcast or a new season during the busiest time of the year. But that's what I do. Your boy stay busy. I don't want to be off for so long, and I definitely want to make sure to keep putting out content. I've had a lot of one-offs. You guys have seen some of my podcasts I shot just staying busy doing remote podcasts. But this is officially season 3, and we are back at it season 3, episode 1. And today, you guys, we have a special guest. Let me introduce you guys. We have my good friend Joe. What's up, my boy? How you doing, sir? Look at you.
What's up?
Flexing.
I actually had somebody hit me up. They were like, you say hi like that? Like,
you do? I remember
yeah, and I was like, what? It took me a minute, and then I went to it, and sure enough, people were like, hey, what's up, man? And I was like, that's a flex. That is what I do. Okay, yeah.
You just did it.
I do. Hey, what's happening? But if you watch WWE, I remember I got pictures of just going as a little kid and flexing out Ultimate Warrior, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I think that just grew up with that.
Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
He was my fave.
My favorite too.
He was the couch cushions are coming off, and you're going.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yo, welcome to dude. I'm so glad you are episode 1, man. It's such an honor to have you here, bro. Because we've met a few times. We've kind of I've had you at the studio just to chop it up, plan out the show, and just getting to know you has been, dude, it's enlightening, man. I can tell you. I remember our first phone call we ever had, and we DM'd each other about getting you on the show, and then we were talking for an hour and a half, and we've known each other our whole lives, and you give that awesome vibe. So I want to say, man, this is an honor to have season 3 episodes starting out with you. Is legit.
Thank you. Well, I think part of that, because we're native. I don't know.
Y'all know it.
I don't know what that is. But there's this unique thing where I've met brothers and sisters that we've never seen each other, and we almost have parallel lives. Our plights, our stories, they're unique, but we handle situations the same way.
Yeah.
So our problem solving, our creativeness, I think every culture has it, but there is something that I find special. Like I make sure to identify the special stuff that I see in indigenous people, because I choose to identify that way.
My fellow favorite Native American, So man, I'm glad to have you here. So yeah, let's get to know you then, man. Where'd you grow up? Kind of like your upbringing, and kind of get into. Obviously, you guys see around me, man. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, man, you guys see some dope art pieces, and so I definitely want to get into that. But let's get into your story on where you grew up, getting to know you, man, and kind of getting how you got into artists, and when did you start seeing the call to be and do what you do?
I mean, immediately, the first thing that started coming to my head was a childhood that was nurtured by only strong things around me.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it was really like a single mom. And then she just had uncles and a grandpa, and my brother was already that way, but I realized he had to deal with it 2 years earlier than me. So I have a 2 years older brother. But that beating up for your birthday status, I mean, it was like, it's your birthday.
Yeah,
guess what?
We got that too.
Didn't know what that was, but you didn't get beat up for your birthday? okay.
Loser!
It was just it was so much, and then there was
catch you up right
construction.
now. No.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was I missed a year. You're getting over here for 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, where were you for 2 years? Well, I was in a place, where they go, and then having that type of like a Tex-Mex uncle, an uncle that did some time, a Renaissance uncle, but he was still in this very mindset of a wrestler.
Really?
Yeah, and so just having that variety of then the mother. I remember this recently because I was thinking of the strong stuff that was always around me. It was a shovel, it was a tool, and then the toys were He-Mans and other things that were muscles. And so since I couldn't, I thought about I couldn't identify pain. Because I remember hurting myself and thinking, what is this? I was a bike riding the bike in Fowler. So I grew up in Fowler, dirt road. A lot of little goat heads or spinas are everywhere.
Yeah.
Didn't matter, barefoot, shirtless. You know what I mean? You're lucky if you find
Country
pants
boy.
on me. Yeah. And so like really riding a bike, I taught myself how to ride the bike. I'm going straight. Everybody's inside and I realized I don't know how to turn it or to stop it. I just wanted to figure out how to ride it. So I jumped off and slid. And as I slid, I mean, I wasn't crying because I didn't know what paint, first.
Really?
It was a really cool spot because I started noticing when my uncles and everybody noticed that, especially my grandpa, he was like, okay, hit this, kick this. And so it was never this identifying, it was always aggression, which turned out later in life to be a very bad thing because nobody would have seen this generation coming.
Come on.
Nobody would have seen toxicity, masculinity, having to be identified. My grandpa didn't know this was going to happen. So when he was like, hey, this is empty your gut. First come here. Bap. I love you, Grandpa.
Yeah.
I love you. And he's like, okay, now blow out all your air and I'm going to do it again. Okay. And it happens again. And he thought he was preparing me for the future.
Yeah.
No, what he should have done was a lot of different things that he didn't see coming. And so when I think of that childhood now going into Fresno, California, not talking about being Native American in Clovis, California, because you couldn't get a job back then. If you couldn't get anything, it was better. You were better dead. And there was a sundown town back in those days, so you couldn't be out an Indian at night. You basically had to be indoors. If the cops caught you, they'd arrest you and let you go in the morning. I heard that story from one of my professors in the area. That didn't happen to me. The trouble me and my brother both had were in our schools. No students really gave us trouble about our culture. It was the teachers. So it was literally a dying thing, this moment of equality happening. And then that shift, I was always into art. So as a kid, I would take these He-Mans and I'd go out there and it wasn't about playing with them. It was about setting the scene up, putting them up on all these areas. I was already exposed to like the early Hobbit cartoon, which was just animation with crazy colors. It wasn't Disney. And then Fire and Ice, which was Ralph Bakshi, Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta is the artist who does like the muscle guys holding the sword and the woman's laying on the leg. And so just a National Lampoon. He did those cover boxes. That's Frank Frazetta's.
Dude, I love that stuff, man.
Dude, it's muscle, it's intense, and a lot of artists will take that and duplicate it. I literally took all of these arts. I mean, I was sewing pants as a kid. I remember making a pair of pants and sewing, and then I started getting this complex because I wasn't gay. And at that time, it was kind of like a gay thing to fashion design. And so I remember that getting in my head and then meeting a lot of cool people, meeting gay people. And they were like, it's not true. Calvin Klein designs, he's not gay. I was like, what? I could do this. So I totally jumped into it again. I used to flare my pants because everybody did it to break dance.
I just do that. I never break dance, but I used to flare my pants.
Them. You got it. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, love. If they can make long-waisted pants now from men, I'd like that. I don't like... Yeah, I like to move.
Yeah.
And so that rolled into like tattooing. I was always into art. So by the time I started getting into school, and I really wanted to get to school, my kids, I had them really young. And so they were older. They're all in their 20s now. So for me at my age, I'm like, I'm going to go back to school and learn. Nice. And then since I had a problem with authority, I'm a native. Same. You're an authority figure. It was like, if there were 5 answers in the room, I'm going to be the one that's like, no, what's this? And it's always been, I've only seen that in the World War Z. There was a moment where in Jewish thing, is wherever they were, that one place, there was a guy saying, 11 people or 9 people, one has to come up with something different.
I agree. I'm that. Yeah, same.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
What's the difference? And
see, my daughter is too. She big old Z fan.
What's there's a thing there.
Yeah,
sweat painting developed through a lot of that imagination.
See, that's what I'm saying, because you've seen this artwork. Get a shot right here, back here, just on maybe the Nate Diaz.
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
That's all sweat.
That's sweat.
Yeah.
Like legit, the sweat of your brow. And when I heard about you, again, shout out Mike T for getting this connection.
VIP marketing.
VIP marketing.
At VIP marketing.
On Instagram.
He also supports 559 Fights.
Yes, 559. I had him on the pod. And man, that connection with you, man, him and with you, it to me, it's like, this is why we do this. Because when I heard about sweat painting, I went and you followed me and I followed you back and I was looking at your work. I was like, no, this ain't sweat. It's sweat, or it's, and the legit saw your Instagram.
When I'm talking to other artists, and this is a novel idea and an original idea.
Facts. I've never heard of.
This is novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they want you to, you put your body and you push on it. The fuck would I do that for?
Yeah.
Or there's weird, and I love hearing all the ideas, but all of them sound like cheating.
Yeah.
Every time I get a certain level of artists and they're like, oh, well, how do I get around actually doing some push-ups?
Oh, so you want the easy way.
They want the easy way. And it's like, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
And this is why the gym people, laborers, like I grew up as a laborer. So this is speaking to us. This is our language.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Native American, as an indigenous person, as a Yaqui, as a Yoeme, a child of the sun, the sweat it's almost like the brow of the gods. When you think of the rain happening and what happens overnight, like mushrooms, magic happens overnight. And so just rain happening, you hear in, I believe it's like Irish or Scottish folklore, one of the Scandinavian areas over there, the gods are sweating, and then that's what makes man come out of soil. So there's so many different ways when you think of sweat culturally. Now you want to cut it out of the language of art?
Yeah. I mean,
where's art?
Yeah, that's not art, man. That's again trying to, I think you're trying to, what's that word? What am I trying to say? You're trying to not industrialize, but commercialize the art and try to hey, how can I make money?
Yeah.
And just like, what's the easy way out to turn and burn?
That's exactly what they think of. And that's cool. I met there's an amazing artist. I'm not going to say his name because I didn't ask permission. But if I say his artwork and you look it up, you'll know what I mean. It's good stuff. He shoots a metal plate, and as the plate chips off, his the shape of the gun blast, different guns make that. And I was like, what did you go to school for? Where did you get your brain from? And he's like, I didn't go to school for art. I went to business and marketing. And it was like, that's amazing. I mean, and I'm not dissing this in any way. That's amazing for him to understand right now in the world. You can't be an artist and not make money. You don't need to take art. You need to take marketing and business. And if you want to make art, for art's sake is what it is. Art used to be made for gods. People would make art and give it to a cenote or go out there and burn it. So humans aren't the only people observing the world around us.
Yeah.
And so just the idea that we think that, if you're an artist and your room's in a gallery, you just got a gallery, and you could look at the last names. You can see the listing of who you had in your art gallery. I'm not hating on that. That's a different type of gallery. It's great to have that investment. Most of the people who talk shit about art, in some way, that artwork's not working for them. Like if they're going to be somebody who's talking shit about the gallery, they're not getting it.
Yeah, there's something that they're missing, or there's something that's not going their way.
Yeah,
and and again, people see BS. People see the facade of like, you're just trying to get a buck. You're trying to just get, you're trying to one up, or you're trying to. To me, that's
it's visible,
very visible, and I love the vibe already. I love how easy just this conversation's flowing. But what made you? What was your first art piece? It's like, I'm going to try to start painting with my sweat. Because I look at you, and we talked last time. The first time we talked. Yeah, the first time we talked, you're very in shape. You're eating everything you do. So it's not like you're just sweating out McDonald's you had an hour before.
It's all mental. It's so mental health. The best way, one of the things that comes to my mind is a conversation I had with a Marine. And what he's seen battle. He's seen battle. I can't say it was killing because it might have been defending. There were so many. He's done things to where I can create my artwork here in this country. So I appreciate what he did. And for me and him to both go to the doctors because we both have a mental issue, a problem from a trauma that we're trying to have. Like, and really that violent childhood I had would have been beneficial right now if my grandpa's future was the future today. But it's not. So I have a childhood traumas with things that can't function in the shape of the mold of today's society.
Wow.
And so for them to give both of us the same treatment and same prescription is just beyond me. We're not seeing two different things. It's huge. So when the sweat painting happened out of that, I was like broken internally. My sons had already grown to be of an older age because I had them when I was like 15, and they're awesome. And their mom's awesome. But there's definitely something to be said if you're a 15-year-old mind doesn't know certain things. And so by the time I hit into my like 30s, a young lady at a college, I went to college, had told me things about being, unwanted. It wasn't bad. Okay. And this is no shame to her because I had a single mom. I immediately knew what she meant. And that tore me up because I started thinking of my mom. I mean, if you think of me painting the women, this is why I paint women, is because I don't understand that side.
Yeah, get a shot of that while you're saying that.
As a male, I can only identify and go through what I identify as. But my mom, I can't. And now that I found something we can relate to, it hurt. And I'm in the gym and I'm seeing my sweat hit the ground and I'm thinking, you're worth something. You're not worth nothing. And this sweat proves it. You're earning that right now. And then I actually started putting it on different things. I couldn't really do it on this first, but it was the idea that
like, what were you practicing on? What led into like this?
First I did a canvas, like regular painting canvas, because I was already painting with acrylics.
Yeah. And
so the painting with acrylics had rolled into, like it was the synchronized moments. Everything had to happen at a certain time, like an oral tradition. So first I was painting on canvas. I was interacting and talking with other artists, which is why it's good to be in the art community in any facet. If you're volunteering, so I speak with other them. We toss our ideas around, and so finally it came into watercolor, the paper. At that same time it was coming to that, I was experiencing the language from men and women. So that language made me look at sweat so much deeper because my sweat was a female sweat. It was also a different culture's sweat. It's you're breaking a threshold. You earned that sweat. That is not easily, readily made, bought. It's a specific type. You are doing something. And if it's for therapeutic use, if I'm in there working out to use my body so that I'm more connected spiritually to my physical body because it deserves it. Like you got to be able to look at your body and say, you deserve to be loved. And that's not vanity, but just in that moment. And if another person can do that.
I think that's self-care. That's a huge self-care because there's a lot of times, and I think you're not even so much self-care, but it's really putting yourself as a priority, as I can appreciate. It's like, dude, I appreciate me. I got to take care of me.
Yeah.
Because our bodies as humans are dying every day. We're deteriorating. So it has, what we put in is what's eventually going to come out. And I see and again, I think, because I heard someone say, like Shia LaBeouf, big fan of him. Yeah. I know he's like in
his own, that guy's song.
He's in a crazy world right now, man. But he talked about paint with your pain, But the thing was, it's like the paint with your pain. He said that there should be more than just doing that because your pain is what happened to you, but your pain doesn't have to be you.
That's so you're not being a victim. You're not sitting there and saying, okay, you went through this and you went through this. You're actually saying we're all going through this and it doesn't have to be ugly. It can be beautiful. Yeah. And so this was me saying, okay, well, sweat is incredibly ugly. One of the first shows I did, a woman was watching it and her husband kept getting irritated because he was watching the bodybuilding show in there. Flex Factory sponsored it. They allowed me there in Clovis. And they allowed me to do this piece. And Valley Fitness Nutrition, they also put my artwork up on their show. But this first show was done with Flex Factory. And they're standing there, and this person, the husband goes, ugh, it's just sweat. It's gross. And the people with me, they go, they hear the wife go, can you do it? If you can't do it, I'm going to watch it. Go in there and watch your show. And I mean, this was a woman saying it to her husband, so it was pretty stern. And so at the end of the show, when I heard that, I was like, that's a good compliment, because it is sometimes gross. I've gotten people saying that's gross.
That's what I was about to ask, because it's sweat. Because when you say sweat paint, I've talked to a few buddies of mine because I was telling them about having you on. They're like, sweat. They have that like sweat.
Immediately. They know what it is. It's gross.
But I came to your defense because I know you. I'm like, no, this dude's fit. This dude he's a healthy living guy. He doesn't put junk in him. He doesn't soil his body with the filth. Well, but
I do sometimes. And that's the thing is, I think even the people who do like this, you're on the good ones.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying. But the thing is, though, when it comes to your work, your pieces, it's not like you're not. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna have burger today, and I'm gonna paint this.
Exactly.
Because again, we as humans indulge. We as humans, like. I want McNuggets at 3 in the morning.
There's something about if you're struggling, if you're a person that I like to ask a more beautiful question, and if that guy, let's say I struggle with cheeseburgers, and you're over there ripping it in the gym all the time. Is my sweat the same as your sweat? If it's a struggle for me to even run or do a pull up, right? Because let's say at your point in life, it might be dire for you, and you might not look the best or whatever. But that's just aesthetically pleasing. Your insides is so much more beautiful because you are saying, "I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm going to go in there and do what I can, and even if it's just for 30 minutes, I'm going to push through something." And all of a sudden, you bust out a small pile of sweat. I'm not sure if that has less value or more. No. I think that might has more value. I mean, personally, that's really valuable.
Yeah, you know what? You saying that it's just making me think more because, again, when you sweat, when I think of the hardest times in my life, especially with my dad, my dad, we grew up poor, food stamps, welfare, all that, man. Yeah. Poor housing.
Papers.
My dad, I remember the booklets. I used to think I was balling when my mom gave me the $5 ones.
Like, oh my gosh!
I'm like, I got money. I didn't know, but the thing was though, I always remember my dad was always gone. Never knew until I got older, and obviously, I have my family, and it's like I look back at the sweat he laid out. He left himself out there, day in, day out, the coldest times of the hottest days. And that man never stopped working. And so because of that sweat, because of those sweat and tears, blood, sweat, and tears we hear, it's like that, again, you're pouring yourself out. Yeah. Whether it's like you said, it's a small sweat or the
big sweat.
Yeah.
It's sweat. And it doesn't represent me. Like I have paintings of me, but it's that the point is to keep it genuine. It's not about me. Come on. To keep it non-contaminated, I'll put on art shows that I don't charge people for, and I don't have price tags on my paintings for, because it's about.
You can't sell this.
And I don't mind. Some I have sold. They're marketed. So where they're at right now is $1,500, and every time I sell more, they go up in price. And so it's because of the art market itself. A painting's an investment. So somebody who's wealthy isn't necessarily, if they like art, they're going to purchase the artwork and put it inside of a gallery. But more than likely, they're going to buy that artwork and set it aside as an investment because it's sitting money. And so you find this right now with like, oh my gosh, the controversy over the artwork with people gluing themselves to paintings that have no relevance. Like the painting is not a relevant painting because who does it speak to other than one or two cultures? And then if the painting we know is owned, like the publicity stunt is just to get you more money, then that's not artwork at all. You're using the artwork essentially for money's sake. And that's cool.
Clout. It's like you're trying to get clout chasing,
and man. You can, all power to you. I can't down talk another artist, but I like to stand on their shoulders. And so like taking because I love the Mona Lisa. It's a beautiful painting. It's been that way for many years, but being the artist, I feel I will be scooting it over. And using Leonardo's shoulders to stand on and say, look, we are all part of this planet at the moment. And something that speaks to all of us is sweat, men and women. And so the next step, to keep us on the track of the painting, and when I started it, the watercolor paper was the only thing that would absorb the paint, the sweat, but I didn't have paint to add to it yet. I tried to paint it heavily and see if I could remove it, because watercolor, you can pat on it and then remove the paint a little bit. It has a viscousness to it. It can move as well as that. Forgot the other word they use for it, but it's movable.
Yeah,
acrylic's not.
Okay, I know you were saying that earlier before we were setting up, and it's like,
So I really played with this. I didn't know what powder to use because I was like, it has to be a powder. So I started using like ochre, coffee,
Yeah, get a shot.
turmeric.
Watch this.
I mean, you can see granules. These granules.
in there.
What I ended up developing was a powder pigment that I added earth source paints to, so it's safe. And then I add pre-workout. So colors like you got a
get in
pre-workout.
tighter. Point at certain colors.
Oh my gosh! So like this, I'm
Get
pretty
in
sure
that.
this is Vicious Pump. It's Vicious Pump is the pre-workout color right here. And what I did is I added that to a thing that already had paint to it. So inside it, if you cut off a little piece and you test it, what you're going to find is sweat. Sweat has salt. Sweat has your waters, your toxins. It's going to have ammonia. And then you're going to find all the chemicals that are in our pre-workouts, like the caffeine, which is like 300 milligrams of caffeine. Is a lot of flipping caffeine. And I mean, I was taking, and I don't as much now, but that's crazy bad health. So the idea that you're going to take a pre-workout and I'm going into the gym because I want to be healthy, or I want to be, some people go because they want to look good, which is okay. Also, some people want to be aesthetically pleasing. Some people mental health. Yeah, do you. But if you're going to take that pre-workout, you totally have to be safe and aware that you can't spit health game to anybody in the room. You can't go in there and be like, hey, health is like this, buddy. Shut it. Because that pre-workout's crazy and not healthy. And that's cool. But I mean, there are guys, if you use certain substances, you got to know your health, your food. So I don't hate on none of that. But you can't share somebody how to work out a plan. Like I'm in the gym. People think I'm a bodybuilder.
Dude, you're rich.
I love being big. Like I didn't want to take my shirt off to be cool on the camera and stuff. But
take it off.
It's one of those things.
Take your shirt off. Heck
these
yeah,
are those things.
I ain't tripping.
These are those things to say.
Look at this, boy.
I'm all lost in the clothes. But that's usually how I flex at people.
Yeah,
so
you do. Because I remember. Here's the thing. I remember when we were here at the studio, and like our conversation got deep, right? And it's not so much you're like it's vanity, but I just feel like
it had to be me.
When we were talking, you were like, ooh, I love that. It's like.
Well, so the best way to explain it is fire and ice. Like where the fuck can I put what I was taught as a kid?
Yeah.
Like if I was taught how to hit shit as
Where's
a kid,
that outlet?
There isn't an outlet. America doesn't facilitate me to have an outlet without getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And that's not cool. And so I had an elder tell me to use. He goes, use this and not these.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. So for years I learned how to speak well. Oh man, I mean the school system here told my mom I was going to be a drunk Indian when I grew up, and they didn't need to teach me. So dyslexic, illiterate. I didn't teach myself to read till I was 20. So I didn't know how to read. And I blamed the system until I was 20. And I was like, fuck that, Joseph. You know how to read. Don't fucking blame. I'd read like cereal boxes, you name it. And then I got pretty okay. I went to college. My English teacher told me straight to my face. She goes, you're too dumb for my class. I talked to the dean. I want to get you in my other class so we think you can pass it. You can't pass this class. I told her I'm going to pass it. Don't trip. I got a B in that class. And there's still some trouble because she ended up actually dropping me from my whole college. I have the homework and everything.
Yeah.
I got to go back. But these are those things where the school systems, they're not facilitated for these things, and society isn't. So what did I need to do? I had a mental health issue. I had a physical barrier, and I had a necessary need to give back to the people around me. Like I wanted to heal and be part of my community. What I'm suffering, people don't have to suffer. And if they do, great. This is an outlet for them to push their suffering. Here is a tool that I found, sweat painting, that allows you to use your body as a healing factor. It's not just your paintbrush. You're optimizing your endorphins. You're doing so much. So the body I ended up sculpting was something like I wanted to be He-Man. Frank Frazetta.
Oh, He-Man, dude.
I wanted that. And so at what age do I get to say I want this? What age? And I finally was like 30 something. I was like, stop being this. Well, I had used drugs in my mid 20s. Horrible decision. Don't use drugs. Because there's might be drugs like mushrooms, weed. I don't necessarily consider drugs. Those are medicines, especially for Hispanic Native Americans. We've been using mushrooms and indigenous like psilocybins and things in our cultures. There's this certain nose apparatus that we would use because it would take in a certain tobacco substance and things, and it would be blown into the nose. And it's interesting, you watch Ancient Aliens, and they're talking about that being a special breathing apparatus. When in our culture, if you ask us, we're going to say, oh, that's when they're putting up the... So, I mean, it's just one of those things. And it's cool. I like Ancient Aliens. But, you know, as
Well, here's the thing. I know it sounds like a lot, you guys listening and watching, man. But the thing is, though, I'm really seeing now and hearing the whole passion, the whole like commitment, you know, because it is a commitment. Because again, like these artists, I'm just trying to find the next best thing. No, you're legit. You hit a rough patch, like you said, you know, 20 years old doing drugs, 30 years old, like you changed the mindset and you started doing this, you know, so it's not like you're just doing this because no, this is you literally.
There was a moment
mentally, physically experiences, time, emotions, anger, you know, like you said, things that no outlet that finally you like now, and it's led up to this, and now I see it.
I heard a moment that I heard the creator say, if you don't do this, someone's gonna do this. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, well, first off, it wouldn't be just for me. Like, that can't be just for me. Like, this isn't just, it can't be. It contaminates me. It contaminates what it is. But at the same time, I remember painting a day for a year. So that's 365 paintings. I get up, I paint a painting at 4 a.m., and I take it to the gym and I'll work out on it. And most of the time I was working with my subconscious. If previously or in the forthcoming days, I was going to interact with seeing an owl or interacting with dance. I had actually took dance classes.
Oh, really?
Arguing with my boys' mom. I really wasn't a well thought out young man. As a young man, I had temperament issues, you know, and that was silly, trivial things. But at your age, at certain ages, that's not trivial.
Yeah.
And so even taking a minute to remember that time when I speak to younger people, it's like, oh yeah, this is why I do what I do. I do what I do because it can't be about monetary value, because if I'm sharing with somebody like to let them know they're special, at what moment would I say, that's $20?
Yeah.
If we just got done discovering that you're as an individual, you're special, you matter. Your sweat means you're a human, which means you remember being downloaded into this body, and now that you're in a living organism that you get to function with, how do you find it sacred? I mean, is it sacred? How do I want to contaminate it? These are questions that, like, if we just ask the questions, I have no answers. There's so much I don't know. So not having all the answers means I get to ask a lot of beautiful questions. And so
I love that. Man, did you guys hear that? Not having the answers is okay, but you'll be primed to ask those beautiful questions.
You gotta.
And we grew up in school, and there's no dumb questions.
Yeah, but you can't ask them.
Yeah.
What time in class were we allowed to ask them?
Yeah.
We weren't. The teacher had to cover their things. We might have had 2 or 3 good teachers that stood out and didn't do the norm.
I remember 2 teachers that were, one in elementary and one in high school. Mr. Sepulveda and Miss Silk.
What did they do?
They were
do you
patient.
have a specific?
They were patient. I didn't know. I never was diagnosed ADD or crazy, you know, OCD or whatever. But back then, my brain was just too far ahead on a lot of things in life,
as it should be.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, those 2 were the only ones that gave me an outlet. I remember as a kid, they would just let me be. I know it was like, at one point, it's like, man, that kid needs to get slapped, you know?
There was a guy named David Fegeth. I knew him. He had a dad that taught later. And I admired David Fegeth. He was like Michael J. Fox is what I thought of him. He was just fucking cool. Yeah. But he had later a tragedy had happened in his life. And but none of this happened during the time that I knew his dad. His dad was my teacher for 2 years, a semester in math and a semester in history. And he started off his year, and he told me, because later I had his class, and he's like, yeah, I remember you. And I was like, whoa, what's up? And because again, I had kids at 15, so I was out of school pretty early. Wow. And he was like, hey, I tell a story about you every year. It's your story. He goes, do you remember what you said when math class or in history class? History was first. And I go, no clue. You know, and he's like, okay, class, this guy right here. He goes, we're having a serious discussion about history. We're asking about what might not get repeated, because history can repeat itself. And I ask everybody, what would nobody like to see happen in history again? And now I might sound, I've had some people be like, dude, you're smart. which again, I'm not. I'm regurgitating a lot of what I've heard over the years, like what Mr. Figas says, and then I'll regurgitate what he says. Doesn't mean I know this. It means I'm just implementing what I heard. But he goes, "What did you? What?" He goes, "What would you like not to happen again?" And I raise my hand very confidently, and I go, "Disco." And I don't know why it just came out, but I was like, "Disco's not to happen." To this older man who tucked in his shirt, was in the Air Force, it just rung a bell to him, and maybe that old dazed and confused culture, because so I was that at that young age. I was already that little dazed and confused little high kid in school, and so for this man who taught me integrity, this is why he was so detrimental to my life. Is he mentioned, "What do you do when no one's looking?" You pick your nose and and what do you do? And I was like, he goes, "Somebody's always watching." And I heard enough elders say it that when this man said it, it made a connection. Being separated from school, being a Native American in a town that had none, or at least they didn't talk about it, it always meant I felt very alone, which isn't bad. I think that's why I feel at home as the first sweat painter, because then it allows me to be the spokesman, the genuine first, like, it's
that
not
pioneer, man.
Don't look at just me. This is me that likes to flex, and this is me that does other things than just sweat painting. Sweat painting is specifically about being a human and visually seeing a representation of what a human is. I painted the Nate Diaz brothers, Nick and Nate Diaz. Nick Diaz.
Get a shot of that. Get a shot of that,
man. I mean, the idea that's the way I even have it, and it might be in my mind. I just see how Nick Diaz was there paving the way. And then Nate Diaz, his last fight where it was on 209.
Yeah, they ended right on it.
Just on it. I mean, there isn't nothing legendary about these guys, but they're also fighting with something that's why it makes them special. Nate didn't have a belt.
No, but the thing is, though, I think the energy that he brings is real authenticity. Genuine. Genuine authenticity. Real. And that's why a lot of people, he can lose. He lost a lot of his fights, but what did everybody do? They come and support because they love who he is.
Always.
He's a Stockton motherfucker.
I gotta not like The Rock. I gotta not like The Rock because he don't like The Rock. I
hate his shoes. I hate The Rock too.
Now
I can't stand Dwayne. He's the same damn character in every movie.
Oh man,
him and Kevin Hart, I cannot stand.
I can't say anything against the guy, but I can't say I don't like him because of this. But that's part of the thing is
that Nate Diaz says
Nate Diaz says it. And I never get on those bandwagons, but with this one I do. But I can't say he does play all the same characters, and that's not an actor.
Yeah,
that's there's only
again, he's the artist. Found the easy way to make the money. I'm never gonna hate on people making that bag.
No,
but the thing is, though, when it's the same, it's like, what, I like what they're doing. I'm gonna make that and try to take that. And again, that's like artists that people like you said.
This already pays. This already does what it does for me, and that allowed me to. I mentioned that book earlier.
Yeah,
it allows me to
save that.
Yeah, that's what that does. And most people, I think, if you have one thing that you do, it's difficult to be great. Like UFC rappers,
Tyron Woodley.
Gosh, like what's going on? But when you have skills and you're an artist, it's almost amazing how you can take another art. Like I went to tattooing and I rolled that into painting and I rolled that into sweat painting, and so it's you can do these things, but once you get seen by the media, that's where it's. What are you making your artwork for?
Yeah.
Are you making it for a like on the Instagram page? Are you making it for an art gallery? Are you making it for human? Like I'm making these for human beings. When they're in the gym, I've had people cry, and I don't always understand why, but I know it happens. And when it happens, it's just the most. I can share with this one. This guy, he came up to me, and we were at the college art show, and he sees one painting. He's like, "How did you paint that? What is it?" And it was a woman, and I had painted the woman because at this time I'm always confused. Women terrify me as a male. Like I can handle if you're a guy, I can whatever, but if you're a woman, you can break me emotionally and physically. And there's so much. I'm terrified, and so the idea that I painted this woman so I can understand the softness that I might need to understand. If I go through these same brush strokes and I look at this, I can actually start to feel like a better human being. And myself, I find personally a dualism with a partner. Not everybody does. They're cool on their own. It's cool for you, not for me. So in that process, I painted this woman and I tell him that, and he goes, "You ever see the Mona Lisa?" And I go, "No." And he doesn't know how I feel about the Mona Lisa already. I'm the guy who's scooting that over.
Yeah.
So he goes, "I seen it." Well, My daughter's seen it. Like I seen the picture because she was right in front of it. He goes, it's not even that big. She was so disappointed. And I go, man, really? And he goes, this, and he starts tearing up. Now this man is in full leather because he was in a group of like 50 to 70 bikers that drove up from rode up from South LA up to here, in Orange County, not LA, Orange County up to here. But this is touching you like that. This painting is simply, it's not even, if one of the things it's simple, like the Diaz painting is a great example of this. But I have paintings that they're not fully fleshed out. There's the maximum and the most minimal. There's no need for me to spend, a month on an eye to look like a picture you can take with your phone. I want it to look like a painting.
You might, if you draw so real, might as well just take a picture.
Take a picture. And I'm not hating on that. That's a great skill.
There's an artist that I know, amazing guy. His name is Brent Mercer. Shout out Brent. This dude's amazing. His entry, because he can sculpt. He worked with Hollywood. He's done sets. And he said that. Ever since he said that, that really resonated with me. I asked him about artists, and I showed him. He's like, "Hey, Brett, what do you think?" He's like, it looks like a picture. I was like, "No, someone drew it." He's like, "Well, they might as well take it a picture."
Yeah, as well.
He said, "That's not art." And he was very straightforward, and I love that. And I'm glad you said that.
It's true.
That's so real.
It's people don't like. So when you see one of my paintings, I've had some people like. It's almost like they request or they're looking for something. I can tell. I tattooed, so I have to look at you and what you want.
Yeah.
But when I have something that's literally a message, like because it's the sweat's one thing. It used to originally I had just started putting colors. Like it has no image behind this. There wasn't a Native American. There wasn't a dancer. It was just the sweat, and it was so abstract. Anthony Ebos, totally amazing, cool guy. He like a brother. Just he's dope. And one of the cool things he did was he goes, they're all the same. He critiqued me honestly. Really? As artists, we don't go up to each other and be like, "It looks really good." Hey man, great. Let me pat you on the butt. No, like that's why I say these great compliments towards him, because he looked at my artwork and critiqued it and said, "Hey, you know what I'm seeing? It looks great. It's all the same. Why didn't you do something?" And as an artist, instead of me saying, "Okay, you know what? Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here. You're not my friend. You're not my
You don't
homie.
know what I've been through. This is mine.
Dude, we can't be that way. Especially as I have to be ever changing. I have to understand growth. This is the human self of knowing I'm a custodian of the planet, the indigenous way that was separated from me, and that means I have to keep knowing.
Yeah.
So I can't not know. So him sharing that with me, I started painting the images in. There's some that have a border and some that don't have a border. I'm constantly changing things where now I'm adding acrylic on top of the sweat paintings. So a watercolor will move. An acrylic, once it's watered down, it'll move, but once it dries, it stays. And gouache is the same way. It moves like watercolor paint, but once it dries, it won't, like it won't get moved again.
Yeah.
The sweat paintings will get moved again if they get re-wet, watercolor.
Yeah.
And also, I could lift it up. So as an artist, it fits all the criteria to say this is art in an academic format, because anything could be art. But that means there's shit art too.
Come on.
Yeah. This
That's
guy,
real.
I forgot who Jordan Peterson. I think
I love that dude.
Dude, he's amazing.
He's go ahead.
Every time, and he was talking about making things. I heard him and Akira the Dawn. It was a song. That's how I started listening. I didn't know who Jordan Peterson was. It was a song guy who would loop. He'd make beats and then he'd loop Jordan Peterson through it. And I was like, this guy's dope. Yeah, Akira the Dawn. I mean, he's dope. And he's hecka cool online. Like you can communicate with him online.
Really?
Yeah, he's a cool Instagram guy.
Get him on the pod.
Yeah, dude, he's smooth. I'm not sure. I've never met him or talked to him. We've messaged each other. Yeah, we've DM'd.
And he responds.
Totally responds. He'll repost my message. Like if I mention him and I put him up on the music.
Go ahead. I'm
even with Joe Rogan, he'll do things where he puts Joe Rogan talk. That's how I knew it was Jordan Peterson. Is it led me to figuring out that he did it with Joe Rogan, and then I was like, he's making this. It was beautiful. I listened to motivational speakers over music, so for him to do it with the beat, and as an artist, I love that sound. So Jordan Peterson says, make it beautiful. He's talking about when you have something ugly, you make it beautiful.
Okay.
And when you do that, you also point out what's ugly. Like you make the obvious ugly. Now, when I heard that, I thought, oh my gosh, sweat painting is very ugly to some people. And made it beautiful. But now it makes what's ugly. I think what it's doing is it's making art ugly. my artwork is showing a contrast between these two fields of art. Are you making artwork, and what is it? And it's pointing out, is that supposed to be something? Oh, it's magnificently done, but what's it to? Is it supposed to be part of a D&D collection, which I love? You know what I mean? But those are amazing monsters. But that illustration can also be, it's an illustration blown up is now a portrait, originally done as a watercolor. Does it fit into fine art? The galleries are closing down, only supported by individuals who want to profit from what's coming in there. What do you profit? Not for art's sake, but what do you profit from? Well, then the conversation changes. When I go and do an art show in the middle of the forest, I'll go in the middle of Tehachapi and do an art show for the bobcats, the deer. Like I put these paintings up. Everything was legit. Art show was on. Left, chilled for a while, came back, took it down. What's the difference? If I can go to Santa Monica, a lot of my shows were in Santa Monica. My funnest shows were in Santa Monica. I just set them up in front of other businesses. I would just show up and put my artwork up on a day that there was a parade or on a day there was a festivity, and people just associate my artwork with the area.
Yeah.
What's it not facilitating? So then you start asking yourself, what is art? What does my art do for me? If you're an artist right now and you're like, should I get into art? What does it do for me? You got to ask yourself that. Because you might end up hating yourself because you toiled over a skill to learn and craft, and then you now have this amazing art skill that you can't do shit with. You got to get into marketing. You got to get into logo making, and you're like, "Fuck! I keep making logos. I just want to create my story or my this." And
that's so real, man. Because it's again, that's why I'm all about passion, man. But at some point, man, that term "follow your passion" is like the wrong. I feel like. It's not the right direction to go, man. I think what I'm getting from you is you found out, and I would say for a lack of a better, you found out what worked for you. That was it. You found your outlet to express your life experiences, who you are, how you feel, what's going on in your mental, what's going on in the world, what's going on with people, and again, like you said, the sweat says a lot.
Yeah.
You can tell when somebody's working out. They're sweating, and here's the flip side. You can tell when someone's overweight and they're not healthy. They're just sweating because they're just. See, that's an impact, So again, what you found is legitimate. I've never heard of sweat paint.
No.
I'm 41. Never heard of sweat paint. Any type of sweat in my life. Sweat paint.
Cool.
And so what's your trip? That is that I'm looking at this one. I don't know if you can see that. Probably look lower. Go to 3. I think it's there. And
that was a big.
Can you get that lily bug? Hold on. Scoot the camera over, Lily, in front of. Just stay on. Okay. Yeah. Go wide. Go to 4 then while you're doing that. I mean, this is a trip. As I'm looking at it, guys. That to me says a lot because you had a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
So Lily, stay on, Joseph.
And it was really when you mentioned like what we're doing it for.
Yeah.
Some men or some women that's we're going into the gym completely working out for different purposes. And when I started looking at myself, when I started seeing myself, let me get this guy. So I'm a guy. I identify as a male. People can identify it. I don't hate. Do whatever you want to do. I choose this. I know what I grew up with, and I choose this idea. And I feel like I'm a tool. I had a few discussions with males who were older in their years.
Well, explain that. What do you mean you feel like a tool?
So like, let's say a woman makes babies. And so if there's a bear, it's going to show up in the village and it start attacking stuff. I'm going to go over there and kill it. And the bear kills me. She can make another baby.
Yeah.
And that can do, but she shouldn't. I can't reproduce the same way. That doesn't mean there's anything negative about that. And I mean that even brings up the term negative, because when you have something like negative, that doesn't mean any bad there's nothing bad attached to it.
Yeah.
But we do in Western culture, we use that term as something bad. But that negative space is super necessary. So as a tool, as a male, I know I'm only the provider of something, and it takes this. The woman would have these 2 planets, and it's a Native American thing. I give high respect to the woman. It's just the way I was raised.
Yeah.
Like the woman, there are things and attributes that make. See, this is where I don't understand, and I have questions about is femininity. and masculinity. Because right now we're using those as tools like somebody can define them. Like, yeah, there's a definition, but if I'm being masculine and that's great things and attractive, but all of a sudden that person over there thinks it's toxic, it's the same thing I'm doing. It just doesn't facilitate society.
Yeah, and I think there's a double standard with that, man. I mean, we can get into that, but the reality is, I understand as a man, you know, I'm a man. You know,
I have to use these.
Yeah, you have to, and I think that's what. And I think the society we live in, man, is taking that away because, again, it comes down to, you know, I understand, man, the rights of women, the rights of just human beings, you know. But the thing is, though, it's like one of those things. And this is a touchy subject, man. I never want to just. I don't want to offend people because I don't want to hear the noise because I know where I stand. Yeah. But the thing is, though, we need, you know, we're not created equal. We're not.
It's a conversation.
There is a huge conversation. But the thing is, though, as equal human beings, we are the same under God's eyes, man.
Yes.
You know, that's how I see it. And
well,
so,
if, let's say my last, like, I'm not, to be able to relate myself, like, I'll paint women so I can better understand the femininity side in my own self. Like, I know I carry feminine traits. You know, I understand having a female mom. I didn't have the father figure. So there were things, we had these two awesome neighbors, Cindy and Angie, and me and my brother, Samuel and Joseph, right? And we grew up like, as we were, you know, diaper kids together. And one day we moved and never seen them again. And I started asking myself about that scenario because in my mind, growing up with a female as a child, that was never like, we were, you know, when you're so young, and you don't know why both of our shirts are off, and then one day all of a sudden you got to wear a shirt. Why?
Yeah,
you know, the society is defining what male and female is. Indigenous cultures all over the place. There are even in Hispanic language there are feminine words and masculine words. So it's a daring conversation to have because you yourself have to be highly educated in what's going on.
Yeah,
I am not. I know enough to say. That when I was doing this painting,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it made me feel so much like a tool. Like as a male, I love labor. So if every time I'm going there and I'm just putting myself to this toil of pain, then I'm actually working myself closer to death. So I got to really be comfortable with death, and that's something men and women both have to do. Like all of a sudden, the ephemerality that, you know what, every day, what am I doing? Who am I? Taking all this off, muscles, all these things, and then the hummingbird is it's love, it's life, being native. Just how meaningful moments are. Yeah, when you see when you see a hummingbird and you're thinking of something, those things parallel each other. Right now, consciousness is that. This is a physicist's conversation. When they're describing the world in the simulation we live in, when you carry that conversation further outside of their lunchrooms or whatever, if what they're saying is true, then upon observation, when we see things and they see us, they're much more meaningful. You're describing a Native American's world. You like to call us magical creatures, when actually, you know, what we are just human beings who are really in tune with who we are, and we have to figure out a way to live in a society that isn't ours. And so that painting is that. It's a lot of pain that I feel constantly, and I love it. I love the fact to know that right now is a temporary moment, and I get to spend it doing this. I could be doing, oh my gosh, it'd be horrible if I was still on drugs. I wouldn't be, because it's just disgusting. But that's at one time I valued my life that little and the people's around me that little, that when I realized I had to heal me, I had to give back to the rest of the world because I took from it. I had took greedily from it.
Yeah, I think that's a mindset of knowing, and it's a personal mindset. It's like, you know, your personal debt to society, your personal debt to the world or the families, friends around you, the impact,
or my ancestors,
the impact. Yeah, the ancestors, and that's so true. And that comes with, again, looking in the mirror, you know, because again, we can blame society, the school systems, everything. We can just, like I've said this 1,000 times, we're walking around showing the world the mirror, like, this is what's wrong. This is what needs to change. Yeah. If you make it personable and you do your part, just flip that thing around. There's the answer. And it hurts, because that reminded me, like you said, the other artists, like, yeah, you're doing the same thing. It looks good, but it's all the same.
It's all the same.
You know, and the thing is, though, when you can take the correction, when you can take the truth, you know, because again, I do believe, man, there is truth. There is, but I never want to get in a world where I make my truth the ultimate truth. It's because that can never work. That's to me, that's That's insanity, because my truth is not yours, and we can get down that. But the thing is, though, when you flip it, like you said,
it's true.
When you step in that world where I got to change, I got to do something
for me.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is kind of where my topic I've been in my whole, I would say just this past 4, 5, 6 months, man, is like my mind, because we talk about the hurt, we talk about the frustration. A lot of people become influenced. A lot of people begin to talk about the hurt, and this is my experience. This is what happened to me, and this is don't let this. I'm never gonna let no man,
right?
Dude, I'm never gonna let no woman. But the thing is like you're not speaking from healing. You haven't healed from that part of your life. You're speaking from the hurt and pain because there has not. Yeah, you've learned to not let that happen. Yeah, you've learned not to do that again or let anything go wrong in your life. But you're speaking only from the hurt and not from the healing.
Contaminating the area around
and
you.
You're just regurgitating.
Your regurgitation is off, and that's okay. Like it's strange. So the government. I went to the hospital. And they had me on Zolofts. It was an antidepressant, and it was horrible. It was horrible. It's the best way I can describe it. Feeling drugs didn't make me feel the way Zoloft made me feel. Separated from my consciousness, I felt like I wasn't operating with me anymore. I could do things, but I was always off in like third person mode. Like if you played the original Grand Theft Auto, where you were like up here looking at everything, that's how it felt. Like it was just gone. And so I had to microdose shrooms.
That's scary, man.
It was microdosing shroom was getting scary because I didn't know. Like first off, you're gonna do this to get your brain right. What is this? And so I started researching it more and more. And these are those things that you start like understanding. Like okay, like indigenous medicines. This was an indigenous medicine that was Marina Sabina. Her story is very tragic. It's like a very Medusa tale. She didn't deserve what happened to her, but because American society, some college professors with a degree in a university went over there, took her information, came back, lied about the information. They said they weren't going to steal from her. A huge wave of 60s drug addicts. And really, when the mushroom was made to help you understand you're a gardener of the planet. And in American society, we're teaching you that if you take mushrooms, it helps you become enlightened and more divine. You can become more spiritually inclined to speak to a God. What God has time for you. You're one person on the planet. Does God really need to stop what he's doing to hang out with you? So it's cool that these substances can be discussed this way. And I'm not downgrading them or the fact that they do, like if I take, they do make you feel more spiritually inclined. They can make you have self-revelations where you fix certain things internally. And all those things are a great conversation that I think what disturbs me is it's an educational one that was originally stolen by an indigenous woman who was using it to heal her community. And the story was different. It's to help you understand you're a guardian of the planet. You're literally a custodian of what we live on. And what do we hear? We hear Terence McKenna. We see these books, and I got a friend just handed me an amazing book I've been reading by Terence McKenna, Food of the Gods. And he is coming at this stuff from a very educational point of view, just like in the arts. You got a degree. You're going to tell me what it is. But sweat paintings they're not yours.
Yeah.
They're mine and they're my people's. They're the humans' people's because we're humans first and we're the first ones to have discussions about sweat paintings, not you guys. So the educational system can't step in and do that. Now I think of the being saved by psilocybins and saying, okay, well, what was it going to do to me on the microdose level? And instead of looking and not just researching academically, but understanding the indigenous point of view from it. It was about growing, becoming more empathic, having more empathy. Not that I didn't have empathy already, but really there is no need to get mad at Fresno drivers who the blinker means speed the fuck up. Like the blinker doesn't mean speed up. The blinker means but only in Fresno. Like once you get past Bakersfield, there's like shit drivers, and it's not my job to be angry. And so the fact that I was
guilty of that.
I am. I've had some serious. It took a few guns in my faces, me chasing the guys with the guns in my faces. I didn't care. You ain't gonna pull a trigger, then I'm gonna get you. And that's a horrible way to live. It's a horrible way to feel. A horrible way to think. I'm not glorifying that behavior in anyway.
We do not condone violence in there. Y'all use your brain. Don't get shot.
It's the best way. Yeah. I mean, because that's right now but to be able to communicate and be diplomatic.
Yeah.
Like having a situation is tense. So that means you got to be comfortable. Like I had a guy step on my foot, straight up stepped on my foot. And instead of like in America, we all know what that means. You stepped on my foot.
Yeah.
We're getting into an altercation.
Yeah.
And I talked with him. And it turned out something was just a little off. Me and another person, everybody else in the room noticed it. So no, there was a harm, but no foul. Hey, we're going to understand and talk this out as grown men. The same is for me with the art world. Like, okay, I'm coming up to bat. Who's tell me the artist right now? Find me the artist. It's not just getting soup thrown on. Like you're going to take, it's very well known. This is what's going to happen. You die. Somebody comes in and buys your artwork. They would have never put your artwork in that gallery, but now that you're dead, your volume of work can be marketed. Now, this is different than art for art's sake. This is art for money's sake. Art for art's sake. Which gallery? Where are the people supporting the artwork that needs to be seen because it has a message? That's it.
Come on.
That I don't. If it doesn't sell, great. But if it doesn't sell, that's it. The message is that simple. When you see a sweat painting, it's not just one person. It means you're special now. You're no longer ugly. Like I had to see that in myself. And instead of like saying very much so, like Joseph, cool, you're great now. Fuck that person.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? No, it was almost this instinctive moment where I almost like when the creator said it, it's like you can give back. You can actually help. You have something to offer the world. And if it's a sweat painting, sharing with it's just sharing it.
Man, what you're saying, man, just it all full circle is you on these canvases, on this art.
Yeah.
It's really because, I do see the sweat, the legit, and pun intended, or I see the sweat. I see the struggle. Because again, sweat, man, comes from stress. When you're putting your body through something, and when you're doing something that's challenging you, you're going to sweat it out.
Yeah.
And there's a sickness, when you get sick, what do they say? Sweat it out.
Sweat it out.
Sweat it out. So
we go to our sweat lodges. Not all, like my tribe doesn't, but I sweat with the brothers here in California, the Tule and the Chichansi.
Yeah.
There's a few, the Yurok. California has a lot of tribes in there. There's actually this last painting piece. That's what it's interesting to think, how the mind works. And I'm still astounded by the brain. I love learning.
You ever get lost in your mind where it's just like, this doesn't feel real? Your hands kind of get like
all the time.
Like, this is no drugs. This is like, you think, and it's like, how am I here? You question your existence. And it's just like, again, I reminded, we did a job, flew to Phoenix, and this is my first time ever flying on a commercial flight ever. And I'm looking down at the window, and the whole time I was thinking, I'm small. I'm nothing in this universe. I'm nothing in this world, and that's how, and we get this in this mind that we're bigger than what we think we are, and we're not, and that's like, that was a huge eye opener for me, man. Because we talked before. Coming off
what
my
grade are we supposed to learn that in? Are third graders supposed to teach other third graders that?
No.
Like from 6 to 18, we're stolen. These are conversations and thoughts that we have, and we're in society. After now, from 6 to 18, you've been stolen, and you didn't have this conversation. You're in college. Is that when?
Yeah.
Like when do you, that's a beautiful thought to have, that you're observing yourself in a contemplative moment. We don't support that in society.
Like we see, like I was up there and I was looking down. I was like, that's a diesel truck right there. That looks like a speck. And we know diesel trucks, when we drive by, we're like,
But you're like to be that, and to think right now, like in like there's two things in science that have always astounded me with my sweat paintings. One's that upon observation, when you have the hydrogen collider, and if one person looks at it, it changes upon somebody else. They're talking about this molecule thing, this thing that handles emotions and thoughts differently. And then the idea that water can carry memory. So if it's true that water carries memory, when I'm thinking and feeling an emotion, does the sweat mimic that? So I'm in the midst of the moment, and in the heat of the moment, and the colors that I grab, they mean something to me. If it's not the colors that I'm grabbing, by the subconscious, like I'm trying to get, like you said, being somewhere else as an artist, there's this moment where you allow, as an athlete, if you're doing something, there's this moment you let go of everything, and you're running on, not just on endorphins, but you're not thinking about everything. You're really in this blissful state of monotonous movement. People who play any sport, you're gonna feel that way. So I'll grab the colors at that moment. I'm sweating. You can't stop and talk to me. I can't talk. It's gonna stop. I want to be in this level of excitement in myself, and then or tears. I've cried on these canvases. I've sweated so much that I've made sure that people couldn't tell I'm crying or sweating.
Really?
And yeah. Oh my gosh, that's super intense because nobody knows. And I'm just sitting there just crying and sweating and it hurting with whatever life struggles there. Or blissful things like happy, just so joyous. I mean, I'm listening to Disney music. You know what I mean? Like bare necessities, super cool shit that makes me happy. And so like with this guy, I had painted this native. It's a Yaqui, and when I painted him, I didn't know what to do with it. Something about it, I just felt like as a Native American, we have different ways of like, okay, I'm a native. Would you call this native art? Well, I'm a native, so any art I make is native art. Yeah. But I don't make the classic native, looking Native Americans.
The sad warrior on the horse.
On the horse, yeah. You got where like I'm trying to do that horse thing and the way he looks, and so but does that make me not that?
Yeah.
I'm Native origin, but I'm an artist. Am I just an artist of Native origin?
Yeah.
And so that meant something to me where I was asking these questions to other brothers and sisters and elders, and I took this to an elder. J.R. Manuel got to be there, and he had pointed this out, and he goes, "Hey, I like that." And I told him, I don't know what to paint. I don't know how to color it. I just had a question about it, but I brought it here. And he goes, "I'd like to see it like this." And that's the first painting I've ever painted that has that. He goes, "You should grab a little bit of these colors." And I've been pretty singular in a lot of my paintings recently. I hadn't gone back to using multicolors since my early paintings.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things that had it's still his. I have to go and deliver it to him.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, but he I mean, he's the reason that those things get finished. I painted a bear and then ended up finding the artist who I ended up doing the jujitsu. I mean, these are those things. I gotta, if you can, yeah.
No, yeah, you're good.
Because I'm gonna find this guy's to give him what he did. He's a champion right now. I just call him Graybeard. It's Graybeard. Callie the Graybeard Malton. So it would be at I don't even know how to be, but so
yeah. So tag me in one of his pictures, and what I'll do is I'll put the link up as we're talking about.
Sweet.
It.
I mean, and these are so I'll paint fighters from 559 fights. Back to Mike T.
Yeah, shout out to Mike T.
So it's one of those guys. Like he allowed me through that. What were the odds that he took me to go hang out and meet some fighters at 559 Fights? I ended up painting another native brother. Didn't know he was from the same tribe as J.R. Manuel. So these are those same things where, I mean, the universe connects all those things. And so I actually see how I can live to allow my gut to get me through life to understand what I'm painting. I mean, it's a strange path.
That's a crazy, I mean, what I get all from all this is the experience, man. It's not it's not just it's a hobby. This is just
I'm moving over the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a strange challenge to say that. I mean, who doesn't love the few people don't love it. But to say, that's not relevant. It's not relevant to me in America. It's like when an artist says, "Oh, my favorite artist is Michelangelo or Rodin," or the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on that. I love them too, but I'm guaranteeing that you watch the Powerpuff Girls. You watch Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
Don't fucking lie. Like you watch these Disney films that it's made you see art and drawing beautifully, or a comic book like Marvel Comics, Marvel Masterpiece. I mean, so that was me. And so I'm not gonna fucking bullshit. That's why I fucking looked at my artwork and said, okay, so how can I mimic? I don't want to mimic that, but how can that inspire me?
Yeah.
Well, instead of me painting all these strong men, how about it takes me I have to be strong as shit to get that out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sweat. It is not.
That's so true, man. Because again, you can, honestly, and I think that's what kind of like with podcasts. Anybody can do a podcast. Anybody can do this. And then there are billions of podcasts, and I feel like my story to connect and to relate with people is to bring them on a journey. What we're at is like, again, they find something relatable, because I never want to be the guy that just puts it out to put it out's sake. I never want to, bring on guests because I know they're going to give me clout. Like I had Chuck Liddell on my podcast.
Well, that's what the military. He spoke about the military.
Yeah.
And that's when that resonated with me with the guy that I was. I mean, it spoke. We're cross. He's a fighter.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. And all of a sudden, we have the same communication with Marine people. You were able to draw and connect those dots.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I never want to just put stuff out. And I think what you're doing here with that art, and I feel like that's why, like we were talking about, I love Nate Diaz and then Nick Diaz. Because, again, people relate to the struggle. They relate that. I mean, these guys are from the hood. They haven't changed once. Yeah, they got money. Yeah, they dripping, they're flexing a little bit harder. But the thing is, though, they remember. You just don't go up to these type of guys and be like, because was it Ariel Helwani was interviewing him, a while back. Remember, he's I don't know about you, man, but shit like that, man, from where I'm from, he gets you slapped.
Oh, I love that. I think Ariel's the best for being like, I don't like when people get picked on. But Ariel is really easily not liked. Like I like him not. I like not liking him. There's a few UFC. I didn't like Tony Ferguson until he started losing. Then all of a sudden, I've never not disrespected him as a fighter. He is the shit. Always been since the Contender Series. But it doesn't mean I have to. UFC. I don't have to fucking like you. I just got to respect you as your fighting skills. Your person can suck. That's the best. That's why I love UFCs, because you don't have to like the fighter, but if their skills are on point, you gotta respect that. And so the more I talk about, like, really, when you start seeing them grow as fighters, who they are as individuals, this is multiple fighters. It's one of the reasons I enjoy painting fighters, is because fighting comedians, actors, musicians, most of us are doing our artwork in a deficit.
You saying fighters, actors, comedians, it's like one of the biggest actors that stand out to me is Shia LaBeouf. How he immerses himself in it, especially when they did Fury. That movie Fury is one of my favorite movies.
Did you see this? Did you hear the song Shia LaBeouf? Where he's running through the night, Shia LaBeouf, catch you in this.
I gotta go check that out.
It is dope, and I believe that. Even in the music video with Sia, did you see that one?
Nah, I'm like very...
No, there's only a few things. He doesn't mind branching out into stuff, but we don't have a market for that. Like, really, the commercialized market, when taking the time as an artist to learn galleries, to learn Hollywood, right? And then you got agriculture in the middle of us, just where we're Central Valley. And you got tech, right? California's a unique state that has all those three things in it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's true.
And so if I'm going to go into Hollywood and I'm going to put my artwork there, it is specific. Usually in San Pedro is where the National Watercolor Society is, and I'm a part of that. And one of the things that they have there is these huge conversations and meetings over art. The art talk develops there. When you go up into Oakland and San Francisco, it's a different form of art talk, even more so than Seattle has another. Oregon, places are growing, but there's something to be said about when you're in Hollywood, because you have it folded over movies. And once you have that folded over, like, here's artwork and paintings and what's supposed to be a conversation layered on top of something like fame, well, that's different. Like having a celebrity status as an artist. Okay, so like as a painter artist, so what painter is standing out to us?
Yeah.
What painter is saying, I'm a champion, I'm here to stand out, I'm an Israel, or I'm any champion, like I'm a Volkanovsky of painting.
Dude,
who's that? I'm the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is I'm not,
I like that. I'm the one.
There isn't somebody else doing that. And it's cool. I love what they're fucking painting. There are some beautiful artists out there. But
I think right now what you're saying, dude, I think I don't know how often because I know I know you're not like, look at me. And it's like, I know like the body is like muscular vanity. It's like, no, dude, I don't get that from you. But the thing is, it's like real artists know. They don't need to say they know. I'm not trying to rhyme, but they show it.
They show it. Yeah.
That's it. They know, but they show more than they say.
So I have to do art shows that are putting my artwork out there without a price tag on it, so that it shows this is genuine.
But one thing I want to get back onto, like you said, we're talking about like the artistry in this, like, cause you mentioned, again, like we said, comedians, actors and stuff, and people putting themselves out there.
They got to struggle.
Like real struggles, and they
live in the car. Like you don't see a doctor live in his car that often. You don't see a dentist, but you can go to school and get that degree and get out and be a dentist pretty quick. Art degrees aren't like that, and artists and comedians and
Well, there's, you know, 'cause you're right, because I know a few doctors and these guys make super bank, but the thing is that I know a few artists, and the grind, the street grind, the constant, like, this is what I do, this is what I want to do. And because, dude, the reality is we need money, and we need money to survive, and that sucks. That's why I do love the culture, my culture, you know, being a native. Back then, man, we didn't have no money. We didn't need that until all these white folk come over and made us think that we needed this.
monetary value.
Yeah. And it's like, no, man, we lived off the land. And in my mind, it's like, I honestly, as much as I love podcasting, as much as I love the content creating, the technology, I do wish the big blackout happens and everything gets wiped out, where everyone's like, you know what, just survive.
Figure it out.
Live off the land.
Well, that's what painting has that to say about value. If you go to your job and your boss will pay you more because that day you worked harder, you earned it, then let's pay you that equivalent. And that guy didn't do shit, so let's pay him his equivalent. He came here for the same amount of time, but why are we paying him the same? And that person's job isn't that difficult, but they're getting paid bank, and that person's is. It speaks to the equity of a person. Sweat equity all of a sudden shows up.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with this. With this show, is like, I'm willing to put the sweat equity in this to connect.
Yeah.
And bring on guests like you, that people have this mindset like us, and they don't know how to channel it. They don't know where, you know, because you know, again, to me, that's what is going to separate me as a podcaster, as a content creator, is that we're not doing this to get gain. We're doing this to benefit and help people, because people can look at that. People can look at that picture and they can see something. They can see something relatable. You put yourself, like, you've poured yourself out to it literally, and they can see, you know what, that's me. You know,
Poured.
You put me, like, I used to have this thing.
Poured.
I have this thing called my life sentence. Like, there's things I'm trying to say, and I think I told you that I'm trying to say, what's that thing I'm trying to say? And then you say, you're like, dude, you just finished. You said it for me.
We're Bluetoothing, and I think Bluetoothing,
I like that.
synchronizing, all that good stuff. That comes when you're running at it. I mean, heck, I've freaked out before. I don't know if you ever run across a tweaker who tells you your fortune, and it's like, what the fuck? You're at a gas station. No, I don't have change. And all of a sudden they tell you your name, your birth date, and where you're heading, and you're like, the fuck? I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
You know, the brain is unique, and then science is we're on the threshold of discussing these things. So that's why I think there are paintings that I made where I'm pissed. Like, I am fucking pissed. I remember breaking my knuckles a few times in the gym because I tend to do push-ups on my fists.
Yeah.
And so I actually, like, broke my fists because I was hitting the ground because I was so angry. Those paintings will never be sold. I'll never bring them out and put them in a show because they're made with such an ugliness and a toxicity that I feel this might just be me. But if that's in the water and in the sweat, that's raw. The pheromones, everything, you name it, it's right there. And then we hang that on a wall and people walk by it. It's a painting might have, we think about that. Oh, the painting's haunted. Why? Because the painter who painted it, when he was leaving his last memories in it, were so intense he haunts the painting. That's a strange belief.
Yeah.
But let's just say that, you know what? He did. If he was a little more raw and he cried on that painting, or blood hit the painting, really, really haunted. That's sweat. That's literally the pheromones that come off of a person are in those things. Wow. And we haven't even started talking about pheromones in science as readily yet. I know it shifted while I was in college. Some professors still don't agree with pheromones. Some obviously do, because you look at animals and animals have pheromones. Yeah. So, I mean, luckily as an artist, I get to skim a little bit over everything.
You have I would say really the world and its experiences and life in itself, you have that huge plate, I guess. I don't know what spectrum. There you go. Thank you, wifey. Shout out, wifey's here. And that's crazy, because I think that's what I love about artistry, man. That's what I love about what you do. My daughter here, into artist. She's drawing. I think I've seen you show some of her drawings. I think, but if not, she'll show you after, man. But you know, she spends time now thinking about the next best thing. She's challenging herself to grow, and her inspiration's so vast, because inspiration from what I'm getting from you comes from, again, life experiences, anger, frustration, joy, happiness, tears, all
and using that as your outlet.
Yeah, outlet. And
that's
then,
your channel.
But then the thing is, though, to be fully aware, say, you know what? I'm not going to put this piece out.
I had to feel my feelings.
Yeah, because you looking at it reminds you of why it put you there.
It was not that, but a question of, is it haunted with ugly feelings? Is that painting gonna make somebody else feel bad energy? Because when I was making it, I was bad. And it's a question. I don't know if it's true or not. But just I
just think that's your own convictions.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I don't want somebody to be. I mean, if anything, I don't know if that shows the honesty of my concern of a human that I don't know. I'm not going to be there. That painting could be hung in a gallery. It looks fucking awesome. It's really intense. But it came from an ugly place.
Yeah, and that, you never want. Again, that goes back to somebody speaking from their hurt, not from their healing. Again, because in life we're hurt by many things. In life we're caught in the struggle of many things. And we tend to speak only from that and not from the part where we actually grew from it, forgive ourselves. That's the part I feel like I can relate to that, because there's so many times these podcasts that I've shot and I didn't take them. I never took them off, man, because it's like, you know what? I'm embarrassed of myself, but it's a constant reminder where I needed to grow. Cringy, you're like, oh, why'd you say it that way? Why are you so dramatic?
But it's you. You're supposed to be honest in you. And especially nowadays when you can watch acting, and acting does not. I have a few good acting friends. I like what they do. But when I watch a television show, it's fucking horrible. Overacting is crazy. People don't act like that. Even in reality shows, like that's not how a human being really acts.
That's real.
And so now all of a sudden when it's like, well, in podcasts and it's interesting to think that Instagram and these other social media sites that do get a lot of bad publicity because they do have detrimental things to them that we didn't know were going to have and possibly have a lasting effect to us now and our generations. But they have benefits, like the benefits that they have for the creativity and the unique things that people get to have, and that moment that you can blossom. Like, how do you want to do it? How do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Not everybody fucking wants to be happy.
Yeah. I know, and I think people love to live in that too, man. And I'm not going to judge me. I'm not going to tell anybody how you shouldn't live, man. And the thing is, man, I feel like if people have to live in that, go through that process, do it, And I feel like that's kind of where my thing is.
Well, how long did it take for you to feel your feelings? Because I remember we weren't allowed. This was a generation that we couldn't cry. Yeah. You weren't allowed to cry. You weren't allowed to do certain things. You didn't have feelings. And so now we're allowed to have feelings. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Feelings are ugly. I'm not a handsome crier. I don't cry beautifully. I don't see that, I'm not, that's different to say, okay, well, what are my feelings now? How do we discuss them? Can we discuss them? How does it not turn into bitching? How does it not turn into dragging somebody else's day down? Because I want to tell you about it, but fuck, your day's going great. And why don't I think a little less about myself and think about your day?
All right, boom, man. One thing dude, this conversation to me is growing because you mentioned something about feelings. We weren't taught this feelings. Elaborate on that. What do you mean by, let's get into that, especially like using your experience, like you said, from when we're little kids all the way to we're 18 in school or high school. It's like,
you don't have an expression. Your expressions of feelings from myself. One wasn't allowed to cry. It was cool that we watched cartoons, but the moment like the men were around, there wasn't cartoons playing. They were action things. There were things that were mimicking a past experience from a previous generation that also didn't have feelings. So learning feelings became this moment. Well, having children, you should start learning feelings. Having a partner, you start learning feelings.
Yeah.
But in that process, I didn't know my feelings. So if I was offended, what did offended mean? Even just sometimes the contemplation of putting my head into somebody else's head so much that I remember hearing them saying they would have dreams about me. And I was like, what's that about? But it's because when I hear it, it's like, well, is that because I would sit there and think about it for so long? Like I would ponder that in my own head and I would see them in my head. And if I'm seeing them in my head and their actions, physics says, what do they call that? Parapsychology says that your consciousness is completely capable of doing that. And so how clear-minded do you have to be to remote view your mind into somebody else's mind? I mean, I would get deep into this because they're my feelings and nobody's telling me what to do.
Yeah, I know, because same here. Because again, whether my dad did it on purpose or not, I doubt it. But the thing is, I know that was passed on to him by his dad.
Violence
just feelings. Like, don't talk about things, And I did. It's not like he told me, hey, real men don't cry. No, it's not that. It's just you don't focus on that because that makes you weak.
It makes you weak.
It makes you weak. And then you learn to bottle it, And so I remember, like you said, having feelings, because you have kids, you're married now. So you gotta be in touch with those feeling sides, because that's what makes us, I guess that's what makes a relationship work. That's what makes being a father works, being a husband, being a good
being a son.
Being a son.
Mine was like recognizing my mom. It was a big deal to me because I didn't have feelings for some reason. I woke up, every day was a good day to die. I would iron my pants. I put that crease down the middle, right? I would set my clothes out and I would fold them before I got up in the shower. Everything was so unique. And in my head, it was because if a meteor hit or if something went down, I was ready to die. I'm ready for it. And that rolled into being a young man where it was just purely scanning for dangers. There were no dangers, but I made them. So just this level of feelings and not knowing how to address them, and nobody teaching me. Nobody, there isn't school. Third grade, who's going to teach you how to feel what friendship is? I had a teacher pull me out first day of school, tell me I was crying because it was my first day of third grade school. I just got pulled out of a school that told me that I was going to be a drunk Indian when I grow up, right? So this lady, Miss Cochran, yes, she's a nice lady, but maybe not, because she pulled me out in front of the school camp. Like, everybody saw me outside and she yells at me, "You're too old now. Stop crying." Well,
really?
That means my feelings, the feelings I just had about abandonment, alone, right? Is my mom just leave me? Third grade is a very young age. And now all of a sudden you shut those feelings down because this old woman, not a man, but an old woman is telling me to stop, have those feelings, knock it off. So in third grade brain, you're going to develop that thought process.
Yeah.
And what I had right after that, Peter Palacios, Sean Zacater came out, I remember his last name. "Hey, you okay? Would you like to be friends?" They literally just seen somebody else in the internment camp get fucking in trouble. And I don't mean a school's an internment camp, but let's think about this. These are children. I've heard some really unique stories of children talking about the abuse of the teacher and that child saying, "But nobody believed me." Nobody believes me, because the teacher changes their attitude when the other adults are around.
Because it's so true, because I experienced stuff like that. And when I was in elementary,
who didn't?
These teachers, they knew how to manipulate. They manipulate your feelings.
And your job, their job.
Here's the thing that I have. Here's the thing that I struggle with now, and I'll be 100%. My wife can attest. She can agree, or she can say she's experienced this with me, is that I feel like I'm always done something wrong when someone calls me. Is like, "Hey," or they text me that, "Hey, we need to talk." My mind goes into fear.
Yes.
I go into this, and this is something I know that stemmed from when I was a kid, that always something. There was always something. And it got put on me every time. I was like, I didn't do nothing though. I know in my heart of hearts I didn't do nothing, but they put that fear, that feeling in me. And even now, 41 years old, there's certain things, if a client texts me, they're like, "Hey, we need to talk about this, this, and this," and I'm thinking, "Oh shoot, I'm about to lose these guys as a client. Yeah. I'm about to lose my job. I'm about to lose
something."
And
it's anxiety, it's fear.
Yeah.
And we're used to using our fear and putting it to use. Now psychologists tell us it's fight, flight, fawn. There's like one more. But in our indigenous belief structure, we wouldn't use words like that, and we would have had a purpose. I mean, there's even that guy who did the psychopath study where he found that there's a percentage of Americans in our country, probably the world, who have psychopathic tendencies, and the only way and they're functioning. They are functioning Americans. They have dinner, they have their family and whatever. But the only way they can tell in that study that psychopaths have killer tendencies is they can test the ones that have been caught for doing something bad. So when he did the study, he found that he was a psychopath when he did it was a cool case study. But
you guys send me that. I got to look into that,
dude. It was, but this is us now. So if we're humans and we know we have these facilitated needs, but we live in a society that does not facilitate those needs. Yeah, my feelings are exempt and they're not. My feelings are important. And so I utilize the gym and art as that. This is a way I can share with another human. Because I mean, sure it could, there are other ways. I'm looking into it with that book I'm writing.
Yeah.
But these ways are different. This is just another tool to share people with. It's we mentioned it earlier because we even have to deal with being called indigenous creatures.
Yes, I mean, I'm down to talk about that.
Fuck. I mean, are you going to say that? I mean, this is one of those things where it's not magical, but fine. If you're going to say I'm magical, because when I look at a tree,
what's the time code on this? All right, so go ahead. Because I want
Yeah, it's crazy. If I look at a tree and I believe it has life in it because science says so, does that make me a creature? When you're super wealthy and you've gone ahead and you've made so much money that you've exempt yourself from society and life, and then you find yourself going into the middle of a forest or going on a hike and taking a bohemian sage thing, and you're you're using our ways that you just got done calling us indigenous creatures on, but you wanna feel that. Get out of here.
Yeah, I hate that, man. To me, when I heard about that, there are a lot of things that don't offend me, especially being Native, being person of color.
We got thick skin.
Yeah, I got thick skin. But then when I heard that lady say that on channel or ABC, whatever, man, the hell with that bitch, man, because she's like, oh, look at, and it was it felt condescending. Oh, look at those indigenous creatures, and they were on people. And it's like that to me. That's what
real people.
It's not like it was like an art piece or a video playing.
That's our history, though. That's Native American history in our country is different than anybody else's unique history. If you're black, your history is different. If you're Chinese, I mean, Mexicali is a great area to express early American history for the Chinese because they were some of the first Americans. But as a Native American, as an indigenous person who comes from multiple tribes, this is where we're only saying indigenous and Native American as an umbrella term for the Utes, who usually didn't get along with Navajos. And that was before America was settled. So the idea that two other countries were using these two tribes to pit against each other, which with problems they already had with themselves, I mean, this is not cool. We're in the midst of now trying to respect each other. I mean, I've had Native brothers say things to me that are hurtful because I'm not doing certain things their way. But I've had other elders and brothers and sisters who understand being an urban native, not from the reservation. And then the ones from the reservation also, like, it's a give and take because we both are isolated.
Yeah.
We're both isolated. And then we're both like, well, I wasn't sure if yours was normalized. We normalized violence.
So mine too.
When I found families, when I met people who didn't have that, I was like, what? You got two parents? You guys don't fight?
Yeah.
The fuck? You go on vacations.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Yeah. What's fishing? We just go like, well, fishing was cool, but that's what I mean. There were certain things
that was so normal for us because I'm from Yakima, Washington, Sidra Woolley. Way up, man. And my tribe is Upper Skagit, Nisqually. I was like 9 years old. This last time I was up there fully on my tribe, man. But I don't know, man. I think the experience I had there wasn't good. It's very tough, but I love my culture. I'm proud. I'm a proud Native American. I love my culture.
You got drugs out there?
Oh, dude, my whole family, even now, are still struggling. The cousins that are leaving the reservation because things got passed on to them. Yeah. The lifestyle, and that's all they knew is like, so this is normal.
Being called indigenous creatures layered on top of a society and issues that aren't ours. Yeah. It's one of those real fucked up things because
that offended me.
That's why it's offensive because our issues, suicide rates, drug problems, these things aren't, we know why we have them. You're why we have them.
Yeah, that's
like,
so real.
This is when we have a tribe relocated and they're not in their normal habitat. This is why we have an issue. And for myself, I can't. I used to go to Turtle Lodge. Keith Turner was my elder. He helped me get clean. And this is that. Like before I started sweat painting, I had to go outside. I was so weird from drugs because at that time it was almost like it's poison. There's no way to glorify drugs for some reason.
My mom dealt with all that.
Yeah, but I would go outside and I would exercise up and down the curb. I mean, I was skinny. I was disgusting. And so using my body and honoring it was how I had to start. And then that understood the sweat. That brought me back to being who I was, the earth. I mean, the creator. So this is being native starts to become this unique healing process that I had, that I witnessed, that if I can't be a liability. Now, if I'm around my brothers and sisters, this was really hard because I don't mind weed. I don't mind the shrooms. I don't mind caffeine or cigarettes. None of those things are any different than the other one that I just said. Each one of those, even a cheeseburger, like there are things that'll make you a liability, like a soda pop.
Yeah.
That sugar fucks with your brain. But how do I not be a liability when it comes time to taking care of each other? This is one of the only ways I could do that. Like I don't get to go to the Choctaw tribe who has to deal with the opioid pandemic because the government, we literally know why, like the government did that. And now we have a whole nation that has to deal with it. If I can't go over there and help each and every individual, I can share with you what I did for myself. I worked out. And when I saw my sweat fall, I looked at it and said, that's beautiful. Let's see what you can do tomorrow. And then
because no drop's the same, man.
Never. So it's not digital art's huge right now. You can't digitalize this.
Heck no.
You can't.
You can download the brushes. You can download the templates. You can download all that.
But you can't take. This is human. This is it's still here.
I'm looking at just that painting alone. Yeah, they're drops. They're droplets, but they're not one is the same. Not one of them is the same. Look at that.
No. And I mean, even like I didn't want her face to be fully fleshed out, but I still had to play with angles and colors. And so there's always this, when I do these lines, I'll take a straw and I'll blow it
I saw
while
you doing
I'm under
that.
pressure. Oh, that's just so, it's usually online. I'll do the push-ups and show that, but I'll do whatever workout I can, or I'll run to where the sweats and myself. I want to be the best. It's really fun when you study cultures. The Hopi did a jumping, Africans do a jumping thing. There's the Sundance rituals. Essentially, when you run yourself into a monotonous movement, you can spiritually become inclined. Now, an iconic painting, a painting that's an icon, comes out of Russia. The Tsar, the first Tsar, Peter, he went down the River Thames with the painting to get off the Mongols from the River Thames. I mean, that's a painting.
Yeah.
So paintings are very powerful things. And an iconic painting would be somebody meditating under prayer, thinking of and using prayer, and then they paint a saint. So if I'm an indigenous person and I'm under prayer from my creator and I'm painting something, it doesn't matter if it's a saint, it's anything. I'm in a sacred place in my mind is what I'm painting an icon. And that's sweat. That is very sacred. That is more sacred than a lot of things, the human body, the human mind. And so there's these levels of saying, okay, well, science can relate to this, but so can spirituality, and so can just being a physical athlete, and so can being an artist. Yes, this is great for monetary value because if you really are a curator and a collector and you see what I do, I'm priceless because everything's a one of one. These are gonna be millions, but that's not the goal. It's already reached.
I feel
its
like
goal.
that's the reward. That's
the reward.
Yeah,
good shit.
Yeah, and that's what makes it beautiful, man. And I love the fact that you said that. You know, because again, what's it say, man? We're all just dust, shadows and dust, man. We're not gonna exist, you know. But the thing is, though, what makes this so beautiful, what makes this so legit, that this is because you're still gonna be here when you physically die. This is you. This is you.
Immortalized.
That fact. I mean, right there. Yeah. If I don't know if you let people touch that, but if I touch it and I'm like, this is Joseph.
Oh, I thought about that in a couple unique ways. Because one of my art projects coming up later this year is I'd like to take a few of these out there and give one to an ocean, give one to a lake, find out what laws are okay because it's still paper. It's inspired. It's not like a sculpture. I have sculptures. I have sculptures I've sold. I've had poems that I've had published. So I do artwork in other fields, but to take these paintings and to light one on fire and to let it burn off and to let that smoke be carried like the prayers we used to do in our kapal, you know, when we set an incense and we burn that and the smoke gets carried to the gods. These are my gifts back to the gods and sometimes because they're not always for humans. I really enjoy saying that I'm here. Like I could look at the creator and say, I appreciate this because at one time I didn't in that spectrum. Like and not everybody takes the risk. I'm taking a huge risk doing this, but that means I get to experience much more. I spoke with somebody about this. It was a person. It's like love. If you won't experience love if you don't go over there and get shot down. You got a 50-50 chance she's going to say no. 50-50 she's going to say yes. And you're guaranteed to know if you don't fucking go over there. You're guaranteed you're going to have to work with your imagination.
My man is preaching.
That's beautiful. I get to imagine and I'll never get hurt emotionally. But if I go over there and I get hurt, damn, I'm experiencing. I know.
I know.
And then
knowing's half the battle.
It's the whole battle. It's the whole and that stuff. It's like, what is life now? What is my life should be feelings. Life should be mourning. It's going to be grieving. Life's going to be suffering. People are going to die. Yeah. What do I do then? How do I still stay here? Because then when I'm gone, I want to still be here. I personally enjoy being heard. I like talking.
Yo, well, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted you on here. I wanted you first episode, season 3, because I know, again, our very first conversation, we got deep for an hour and a half, and that we've never talked to each other, and we just went on. Like, again, we found our lane where we relate. That's why I wanted you season 1, season 3. Episode 1, man. Well, this is beautiful, man.
Dude, I'm so thankful for this, and thankful again to Mike T, because these are those things. These are those things that don't happen unless you get out there. Mm-hmm. And I know that's something to say as artists. It's easy to live in this is just a helpful thing to artists out there, and to share that with some of the artists out there. Don't stay in your echo chamber. I had a great artist tell me this once about the pool of imagination. And there's this little pool, and we go and we put our feet in it. And every time our feet touch the water, we are now in imagination. We can create, we can hear things, we see things nobody else does. And at some moment, the things that live in imagination will come up and they'll grab and hold you. And you're sitting there. And before you know it, this echo chamber, this little valley builds around you, and nobody's ever going to see you again. The fairies have took you. You're gone. Aliens have abducted you. You are now in somewhere else. And so remembering to come back and be part of society as an artist, it's a huge deal, because what are you doing your art for? If we're supposed to be living conduits in which we can convey a message being sent to us, the idea that jinns are gifting us with this idea to become a genius with a thought, or I'm writing a song and I'm hearing a muse create something. Well, you have to be a conduit then. And if you're going to have that conveyed into your mind to speak, you can't sit there alone with it. You gotta
share it, man. You got. I feel like that again. That goes down to what we do as artists, as creators. Something that, because again, one of the things I want to be on this is because again, I mean, other than my freaking batteries dying on my camera, but the quality we put out, man, and the content alone is really up there, man. And I do get a lot of people hitting me up. And I was very selfish. I was very like, how much I went through? The blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. Being selfish with my sweat. And it's like, okay. But the thing is, though, it's like I want to, like you said, I want to give.
I want to give it.
So now we're in this position where we're blessed to help local podcasters, content creators, people that want to have success in life and to create. Well,
and sharing is a big deal. So I think if we were to tie it back to something I mentioned earlier about being a male, I'm envious that women can have children. I can say that. I don't know if very many men can say that. I could say that.
That never
crosses your mind.
Yeah.
I just think that they can create life. They get 9 extra months with children more than we do. Like, we don't get that bond with our kids. They get 9 extra months with our kids. They're able to have this. There's something that can't be broken with that mother bond that we don't get to share as males. So the fact that I could create anything and it still has a life outside, or that I was blessed enough to be able to have children at some time in my life, like, those are things that I don't think men I took for granted.
I agree.
And so now that I'm able to not and say I'm able to feel what that's like, the absence of not being able to create life. How about these paintings are my life? I want them to be strong enough that I could walk away from them and they can stand alone.
They can hold their own.
They can hold their own, just like our kids.
100%. I agree, and I believe in that. That to me is, dude, I don't know, that's iconic. That's huge.
It's strange. Yeah, it's a
That's
strange.
huge.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I never thought about like women have an extra 9 months more.
Fuck yeah.
That's insane.
It blows my mind because there's a bond there that we know is. You give me 9 months with anything, I'm gonna get better at it.
Yeah.
Or have a bond or something. And to have that, maybe that's like their Bluetoothing mechanisms. I'm not saying all moms or all humans or dads can't have that, but that is a guarantee. Like there isn't a guy gonna be like, well, I got 9 extra months.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
No, bro. You did the easy part. Took about 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, and I can't. This is where I think biologically things are different.
Yeah.
If you were to set a baby in my body as I was born, my hips might not be able to bear the process of that. This is just biological. I can't speak to. This is where the emotions identify as how people want to. I respect that. You can do what you want, but I have to respect that. My mom is a woman, and she's gone through construction work. She's an archaeologist now, but she was a construction worker first. Yeah, she was in colleges when back in the 80s and early when women weren't allowed to do that.
Indiana Jones in
right?
Your life, man.
Fuck, she discovered so much cool shit. The coolest thing I got to meet the man who knew this. It's the story of the one-armed bandit. It's an Oakland tribe, and this one-armed bandit would sneak in. I'm doing this, and you'll understand why. It would sneak in, and it would take your babies, and it would eat it at night. And right now in the Americas, you have this thing amongst literature, amongst archaeologists and I don't know if they're some people who discuss our culture. They tell us we came across this Bering Land Strait, and all of us and a lot of our tribes are saying, well, we're actually here before that Bering Strait was here, and our ancestors were here. Like you call Clovis Point people, that's our people. And our legends and stories tell you of this. Like we came out of the ground, the last flood age, we popped out of the earth. We didn't float or climb. Some of us went to mountaintops, but you can hear this. We're telling you we didn't cross that bridge. Some of us did, but not all of us. They don't want to say that. Well, this archaeologist, who's a native man who discovered this, was a mastodon bone. So it's not a woolly mammoth. Mastodon bicuspids and teeth are used for carnivorous things. They're omnivores. So they eat meat and they also eat vegetables. They found baby skull fragments with the teeth of this mastodon. Essentially, the one-armed bandit would come in at night with its one trunk, and it was an opportunist. It would take the baby, easy meal, and softly putter its little feet out. I mean, that's a huge, that's a fuzzy elephant with a killer teeth. And it would do that. Now, when you place us in time here, that means we would be experiencing that when that bridge was at a different time. So, I mean, these are things that when we open up that now understanding of, okay, one-armed bandit, why would that legend be there? Our story is much more beautiful. Isolation due to migration, that's why people look different. And there's nothing wrong with that. But once we start respecting our ancestors and saying, okay, your story is beautiful, what is it? It's not about your story being different and I don't like it. It's what is it? And then, well, let's hear it. It's back to the sweat paintings. You have a story. Your people have a story. What is it?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're one. I have this. This is personal. Don't tell me you're one color. Don't tell me that. I want to know. I have a friend who's Dutch. So we had a difficult time speaking to his daughter because we had to express to her that she's Dutch and English because of her last names and where she comes from. There's nothing wrong with being Dutch and English, but that doesn't make you one color. Don't say that. You're Dutch and English. We have Irish. Like there's multiple things that people have from all over the world. What's wrong with you being that? Today, you're not the fucking jerk who would skin it. Like, people don't even think about this. Like in recent times, you can take a native scalp. You couldn't do this with any other race. You could take a little kid and peel a scalp off and go and turn that in and get money. There are multiple Americans whose grandfathers didn't go and get beaver skins and turn those in. They turned Indian scalps in because we weren't like the population of buffalo being killed. There were so many different tools they used to get rid of the Indian and not the man, and the man. But one thing, Maine is kill the Indian, keep the man. So, I mean, just Bobby Von Martin and James Martin, the Von Martin brothers, they're amazing here in town. And a lot of their work, their paintings, keep that story going, and it's a painful one. It's painful to see the braids getting cut off a kid. It's painful to know our language. Like Native American past is painful, but the idea that we're not even recognizing how painful it is. Like in 1985, we were allowed to do our religion. Anybody else could be the religion in America, but 1985, I believe, is when we were legally allowed to start doing our ceremonies here in California. from what I know, like I was born in 82.
Yeah.
So that's crazy that in 1985, 2 years after that, I was finally allowed to do there's a Satanist church in San Francisco. Again, I'm not hating on you, do what you want, but you could exist, but I can't.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's so real.
But this is now getting into did you cut the head off that little kid? Okay, then I can't really hold you too accountable for it. I don't even know how to address it. It's a weird question. It's a topic. You're my good friend. You're Dutch. Your great grandfather made a living off of killing Indians.
Wow.
Do I not like you? Do I hate you? It's a strange, and I ask, how do you feel? And he was really funny. The buddy I'm talking about, it's real funny because we've talked about this. It's just a topic we talk about. I had a German blade. It was a German blade that wasn't a lock knife. The blade was dulled and it had a spade on it. It was probably a Nazi blade. It was a very unique blade.
Really?
I asked him to hold it once, and when I gave it to him, he held it and he like shook, and he's like, "Whoa, I don't hand me that." He said, "I felt really gross." Like he had like a weird spirit. I mean, who knows what paranormal?
Yeah.
Somebody can address like, "Oh, it's the spirits." I don't know what it was. But his DNA, his human body, the moment he touched that blade, something was in the blade that gave him shit negative energy. I mean, how do so it's not native skin, it was Dutch skin. So something in his past and DNA told a story when he touched the object. I was able to hold the object just fine. So I don't always understand these things, but I think they're interesting questions because we were born into bodies. I don't think it's not racism because it's culturalism. You're beautiful. Tell me about yourself. I don't want to hear that differences are great. Let's hear them.
Yeah. That's what I love, man. Man, this conversation gets like, because again, full circle, bro. You are what you are. You are what we see in this, and again, because again, your conversation right now, again, just keeps growing and growing, and I'm learning so much just listening, especially being a Native American, especially being, a part of this, man, because my kids are, they're, and I want them to know their culture. I want them to be very proud.
Oh man, there's some elders out there that they run. I know what I learned and listen. I don't even consider myself like an elder yet in any way, but bro,
I feel like you're on the level though.
I want to be.
You're on that level. Just the conversations you have now, the knowledge, the intellect, you're portraying.
Well, I want to share it. Yeah, I had an elder tell me this, and I stick to it because it sounded so good, and it made me feel good when he said this. He goes, "Joseph, I've heard you talking," and he goes, "You're not telling anybody what to do." And he goes, and nobody likes a teller. And he goes, you're not preaching. And he goes, preachers sound a lot like teachers. Mm-hmm. So we don't really like preaching that much either in our culture. Yeah. He's making a Native joke about how preachers were really kind of fun. Missions weren't cool.
Yeah.
And he goes, but what you're doing is sharing. And he goes, and when you share things, it's in a good way.
See, that's what I love, man. And I think I'm down for like a part 2, man, to really just keep in contact with you, but share something that you feel somebody listening and watching, and bring it full circle into like your sweat paint. Share something that you feel like today's world needs to hear.
Oh my gosh.
Loaded question, I know, but
it's a beautiful question because when I think of how much I love to talk, what somebody needs to hear, what somebody should hear from me. Like what would I have to say to a newly arrival member of the planet? Mm-hmm. And I would think, I mentioned my friend's daughter, and I did this with my sons, but I know I specifically did it with my friend's daughter. I had, she was newborn, and I put my forehead up to her forehead. And I remember telling her, you're going to be anything you want to be. You're beautiful. You'll always be great at everything you do. You're going to be beautiful. I just repeated as much as I could anything to her to let her know it's going to be okay. You're beautiful. And even now when I see her, she's grown up now. She's getting she runs around, she speaks well, and she has a light about herself. And that's the only thing I can think is if you're going to share it, when I shared that with her, there was nothing contaminating the energy I wanted her to feel. So if I were to say if I were to share something with a 30-year-old man or a 14-year-old kid. What would contaminate it is looking at the point of view and where I'm coming from. Maybe their life, maybe my life. I'm going to make all these little reads on character. No. If I can say the most genuine thing I can say to a person is that you're beautiful, that you're worth it, that, if you're still here, that's good. That's what we're supposed to be. And I'm just telling her, you're beautiful. Like my sons, you're beautiful. I would tell people that you're beautiful. And that's this. I want people to see the ugliness. You're beautiful.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Fuck whatever somebody says you're not. Fuck that.
Come on.
And if you're worthless, fuck no, you're not.
Yeah.
There is no need for that. It's in it. We're all here. I think in my thing, I talk about this. Everybody is suffering in some way. You know what I mean? But if you're still here, just don't fucking give up.
Yo, you are speaking my language. This resonates so much. I mean, still here, dude. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you stand for who you are as an artist, as a creator, and as somebody that I feel like is a pioneer on this level of actually communicating your soul. Really. I mean, who has that opportunity to communicate your soul? That's insane, and to see it, again, immortalized.
And the pain.
When you're gone, you are still here, bro. This is beautiful. And I want to say, I appreciate you, man. You guys listening and watching, I want to tell you guys that, one of the things I want to start doing with the podcast is telling your story. Again, I'm not here to get the clout. I'm not here, try to go viral and let people think, oh, Jose has it going on. Still Here Podcast is the next. But no, it's not. I want stories and life experiences like my man Joseph here, and I want you guys to know that that's all you're gonna get from this show is the story behind the glory, and I say that a lot. And when I say glory, it's not like I've achieved, I've arrived, I've grown, I'm at that level, I'm the top G. No, it's not that, man. The glory is that you've actually learned how to grow in the struggle. You appreciate the struggle, the stress, and things in life that hit. So know that Still Here Podcast will stand for that and tell your story. You guys that listen and watching, I can guarantee you somebody has gleaned from what Joseph said today and what he put out. And you see the artistry, you see the talent, you see the gifting, So I want to tell you guys, man, support local artists, support creators, support him. I'm gonna tag him. Follow him on Instagram, follow him. And get to know him, love his work, share his work, because that's how we keep this going. Because my goal in this whole show is to support awesome guys like you, man.
Thank you guys.
So thank you for your time.
Appreciate your team. You guys all being able to do this.
Beasts.
Yeah. This is a different form of art. Like I'm digital stuff. You guys, that's another form of sweat. I make a very big deal about that. If you're a digital artist and your back hurts or your knuckles start to change shape,
right there.
Yeah,
she's getting there.
That's called sweat. There's a value to that. You're taking your body and you're showing a sign that you're dedicated to something. That's beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know that, girl. You're sweating it out. So you guys. Stay tuned for season 3, man. Episode 1 started off with a banger. I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite episodes because again, this conversation could have went straight Joe Rogan style, 4, 5, 6 hours, and guess what? We could have kept it going. But I want to tell you guys, man, I want to save great content like that for you guys to know, what, just keep coming back. Expect more giveaways. Expect more support in the community. Expect me coming to you guys, man, and meeting where you guys are at, man. That's what this podcast is about. So again, support Joseph. The link to find him and all his artwork and his social medias will be in the description below. Support this man. Show him some love. Send him a DM. Tell him Jose Cruz from Still Here Podcast said hi. Said come stop by and support you, man. So I love you guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. It's going to be a great one. You guys have a great weekend.